Lakia Monet, and I'm back finally after a very long delay. I would like to share with you some more life updates and to invite you in on my journey. So let's go. Just in case you are new to this channel, it is a relatively new channel. Relatively, because I've only put out 3 videos over a span of what, 2 years. So my first video was on locks and how I took out my first set of locks after having them for 4 years. And so I had hoped at that time to just join in the conversation about hair, share my experience, and get some feedback from you all and help someone else out with things that I've learned. I get helped so much from being on YouTube. So that was the hope. So I put out one video, put out another, and then after that, silence. And so during that time, which I explained in my 3rd video when I came back just to kind of check in, during that time I was pregnant. The first 2 videos I was actually pregnant with my daughter, but I was able to get things done and still able to, you know, do a lot. But then once that pregnancy fatigue hit, that first trimester fatigue, and if you've been pregnant before, you know what I'm talking about. Most people do. Most people have that. Once it hit, I was down for the count. I didn't know what it hit me. I would get home from work sometimes and just go straight to sleep right after I got home with all my clothes on without even eating. My husband would have to come and bring me food sometimes. And so that was one thing. And then another thing that happened that fall, winter, was we had a hurricane. Hurricane Matthew came and totaled our car. We had a lot of things going on that year. And I did share some of that in that 3rd video. So, but now I'm back and wanting to just reconnect and hoping to share this life update, but not just to leave it there, but to share and then also continue on the journey and just invite you in, whether it's up and down, whether I can only do like a 2-minute video update or something like that. Just trying to, you know, be consistent and share what's going on with you. And as you can see from the title, I am pregnant with twin girls. They're identical twins, and I can share a little bit more about how we found out about that, what that process was like. And that's what I'm hoping to do in this video, just to give you a recap of my first 2 trimesters, because I am actually in my 3rd trimester, and because of my specific type of twins, I only have about 8 weeks left. Oh yeah, let's talk a little bit about my type of twins. So the type of twins I'm having, they're identical. They could be, it could be early detected that they were identical. During a 7-week ultrasound is when I found out. They could tell because they saw 2 sacs and they were sharing a placenta. And so they're called mono di twins, or di-mono. And the di means 2 and the mono means 1. And so the di is because there's 2 sacs. So each baby is in their own sac, the amniotic sac. And then the mono part is that they're sharing 1 placenta. Most of the time in a pregnancy, you know, one baby has 1 placenta, but in a twin pregnancy, with identical twins at least, there's 1 egg and 1 sperm that meet, and you know, the egg gets fertilized and then it splits in half. And depending on when in the fertilization process the egg splits, is how you get the different types of twins. Like you could get actually identical twins who have 2 separate sacs, 2 placentas, if it splits all the way. And then you could also get identical twins that share a sac and that also share a placenta. And then you could get my type of twin, which is when you're sharing a placenta, but you have 2 separate sacs. So anyway, that's a little bit of background on how they could tell so early on that they were going to be identical twins. And the irony is that during the first trimester, I was having a lot of pronounced symptoms. I would say similar to my first pregnancy, but I was a little confused because I was thinking, goodness, either I have a bad memory as to how severe these symptoms were, or I've changed, like my tolerance level has changed, or just the second pregnancy, or every pregnancy is different. So I was a little confused. Mood wise, I was discouraged at the physical limitations. I expected to be tired because I had been pregnant before. And I remember the first trimester fatigue, but I did not anticipate just how incapable of doing, I felt like, anything. Once I left work, picked my daughter up, did all that, and I couldn't cook, I couldn't clean, I wasn't making my lunch, so I was buying more food, and it was discouraging, especially when I didn't know why. So with that being said, I started to spot again. This is taking you back to about 6 weeks in, and I was scheduled for an ultrasound on a Tuesday, which I would have almost been 7 weeks. So that week I was spotting. I called the midwife. I had spotted a little bit with my daughter, so I wasn't super concerned, though I was concerned in general, just because early on in the pregnancy, you're more likely to have a miscarriage if you're going to have one. And so it's a little scary, but I knew that it could possibly be normal. So the midwife was just like, okay, well, same thing as last time, pelvic rest, and for now it's okay, but if it starts to increase, then call us, and you need, or she didn't even say call us, she said go to the emergency room. So it actually did increase that week, and I was like, oh, it's gotten a little worse. And so I called the office that Friday, and she's like, I'm sorry, we're not open on Fridays, but you need to go to the emergency room. You can't, because you can't come here, but you need to go to the emergency room. And so I was like, oh Lord, I don't want to go to the emergency room. So but I ended up going, and they confirmed that there was a heartbeat, and they did a transvaginal ultrasound, and they looked everywhere. I'm gonna tell you, the person who did it was very thorough, and I remember thinking to myself, wow, she is being very thorough. And she even turned the screen around and she showed me. The doctor came in and looked at it. It looked great. And I looked it up afterward, and they call that the hidden twin. So they only saw one heartbeat. They saw one baby, which was very reassuring for me. And the person who was seeing me just told me, okay, so it's very reassuring to see a heartbeat, but you know, nobody can prevent miscarriages. You know, you can try your best to rest and things like that, but it's not, you know, anyone's fault if, you know, if that happens. But keep your ultrasound appointment on Tuesday. So that was a Friday. Tuesday comes around, going for my ultrasound, just hoping for more good news, like, okay, the baby's still doing well, you know. And so we get in there, and they want to do another transvaginal ultrasound. And I was almost 7 weeks. And the ultrasound tech immediately was like, you just had one of these on Friday? And I was like, yeah, And she's like, oh, they didn't tell you there's 2? And we were like, we just laughed. That nervous laughter where we were like, what just happened? We didn't know what to do, what to say. We were just laughing. And my husband was there, and it's so funny because he's actually he was more aware that there was 2 somethings on the screen than I was, and he noticed that there was 2, and he was just like, oh, I hope the baby didn't break into fragments is what his thought was. This is what he told me after the fact, and I just was oblivious. I had no idea what I was seeing. Whenever I would see an ultrasound, I have no idea what's going on. So that was very interesting. So the ultrasound tech didn't say much, just she mentioned the heartbeats and things like that, which that was just very shocking. And I will tell you, the shock, I think, lasted for a few months, actually. For a few months, I think my husband and I were both disconnected, really, from the situation. Not in a bad way, but just from like we are not really experiencing this. We're just kind of, I mean, we would get bits and pieces of experience, but more so kind of like a head knowledge, like, okay, we know this is happening, but you know. So I remember after the ultrasound appointment, or after the ultrasound was over and the ultrasound technician left the room, I said to my husband, I said, well, let's just hope they're not sharing a placenta. And then he's like, oh, okay. And then we go into the room, wait for the midwife, and she comes in, and she's like making little jokes because she has twins as well. And she said, so they're mono-die. And I was like, oh. And she was like, oh, you know what that is? And I was like, a little bit, because I had followed Kendra Atkins, I think is her name, on YouTube a few years ago while she was pregnant with her twin girls. And it's funny because I wasn't yet pregnant with my daughter. I got pregnant, I think, during the time that she was pregnant. And I learned so much about twins in general, but especially mono-die twins, just from watching her videos. So when I heard mono-die, I knew that they were sharing a placenta, and I didn't know they were going to be identical because I didn't understand that aspect, but I knew that they were sharing a placenta. I knew that it was high risk. I knew that I would have to go to appointments every 2 weeks. All those things just came back to me that I had seen from Kendra's journey. So I just appreciate her sharing that. That was so helpful for me. Because of that, because they share placenta, she couldn't do the delivery. She would have to transfer my care to a high-risk doctor called a maternal fetal medicine doctor. So she did that, and I was sad and I did cry. It was good to have her deliver my daughter, and the familiarity, plus just, you know, having a midwife attend the birth is just great. But doctors are there for high risks and, you know, for emergencies and things like that. And so I appreciate that. Told me if they were fraternal twins, if they had separate everything, she could deliver them. So that was the last time I saw her, this pregnancy. And then after that, we had an appointment with the maternal fetal medicine doctors. That was still the first trimester. We saw them early on, and they had us go in a few times before the 16-week mark, which at 16 weeks is when with mono-die twins, you start going every 2 weeks, and you have every 2 week ultrasounds, every 2 week appointments. But they saw us a few times before that because they wanted to get some labs and they wanted to check some things and, you know, get an ultrasound or two in before that. So yeah, that was first trimester, super tired, in shock, discouraged, but also it was kind of cool, you know, just the thought. But sometimes it was difficult for me to connect with how cool it was because I was nervous about loss. I was nervous about you know, getting excited and then being disappointed if something happened, because it is a high-risk pregnancy. I'm at risk, the babies are at risk. So that was first trimester. The second trimester, I just got really hopeful for the second trimester because of the hope of regaining energy. And I did, actually. I noticed that around 14 weeks, I started getting more energy. It was amazing. It was like magic. But the energy wasn't enough to get me through work, through taking care of my daughter, and to be able to still do stuff because I still had the physical symptoms. I was having pelvic pressure, which was just progressing every week, whenever the babies got bigger and bigger. And then all the walking that I do at work, or did at work. And I mean, we do a lot of walking. The picking up my baby to change her and all that it was definitely having a toll on me. So while I had the energy increase, which was nice, it still was it balanced itself out because of all the other symptoms. Oh, so yeah, also when I started going to the specialist, they put me on some more vitamins. So I was already taking a prenatal vitamin, and what they did is just gave me extra folic acid, extra iron, and then extra aspirin. And the aspirin was to prevent preeclampsia because I'm more at risk for that. Folic acid is just to help with like the brain development of the baby, the neural tube, and also just make sure that I'm getting enough too, because they, you know, babies pull from you to where you may not get what you need. And then the iron was to make sure that I didn't get anemic. I also was on vitamin D because I was vitamin D deficient, and the midwife had started me on that. Day in my life was pretty much the same. I would come home. I was able to make it like for like an hour after I put my daughter down, which was nice. So I could still come downstairs, although walking downstairs has gotten more and more difficult up and downstairs. I can only do it a few times a day, and I have to be very mindful of conserving the energy. Also, during the second trimester, we found out the genders. We didn't let them tell us, and then I think I was 22 or 21 weeks when we actually did the gender reveal. So we had a gender reveal and found out that we were having girls. Twin girls, identical twin girls. It was crazy. And the funny thing is, I just expected it to be boys. I expected my daughter to be a boy. I just grew up with boys, and I just expected that I would be surrounded by boys because I just have been. And I'm comfortable with that. But at the same time, I love girls, and I just think it's so fun to, you know, connect with someone your same gender, and to just show them everything that you know, even without showing, you know, just by being around them, and then they learn from you. So I was really excited. I was surprised and nervous because it was girls, because I'm like, oh, I don't know how to do the girl thing, even though I have a daughter, like, and I have friends, and I even have some half sisters. But it was nervous. I was nervous at first, but then once the nervousness died down, I got more excited, which was so exciting. And it was nice because we could use all of my daughter's baby clothes, which is amazing. Yeah, so my mood again was still, when I was at home and my husband was like helping take care of my daughter and stuff, and I was lying down, I was excited. I would have moments of excitement. When I was at work, y'all, it was hard. I was just like, felt like a Debbie Downer. Like, I was always focused on not falling down because I was dizzy, or that I couldn't breathe, or that I was in pain. And I know I look bad. People would be like, oh my gosh, do you need a wheelchair? And then I realized that I would have to go out of work soon, sooner than I anticipated. I at first had intended to work the whole time like I did with my daughter, but as time went on, I realized that I just wasn't going to be able to do that. And the doctor was just telling me, you know, you have to let me know how you're feeling, you have to let me know what's going on, and which is hard for me to do, but I eventually just let him know, like, okay, yeah, this is, you know, I keep having the pelvic pressure, I keep having this going on, I walk miles and miles at work. With that being said, this second trimester, the end of my second trimester, which was last week, I did go out on bed rest, which I had hoped to wait until this week, but I couldn't make it in to work one day, and then the next day I really couldn't make it in, but I wanted to make it in just because I had text my boss and told her that I thought I would be good, because every day I kept thinking, oh, I can do it. Once I'm lying down, I feel like, oh, I can do this, but again, I'm lying down. So I went in that day, and that day was the day where I was like, okay, call my doctor. And I was a hot mess. But they had a surprise shower for me at my job, which was so sweet. They didn't even know it was gonna be my last day. They thought that my last day was gonna be this past Thursday. And I was just like, perfect timing, and it was so nice. And then they wheeled me out in a wheelchair, and I kept declining that, like, all these months, like, no, nobody's not gonna put me in a wheelchair. I don't want people looking at me. I don't want to be center of attention. But yeah, so they wheeled me out in a wheelchair, made me leave work early, and that was my last day at work. So I am out on bed rest right now. It is modified, thank God, and I hope I don't have to go on strict. But it's been much better. I still have the same symptoms now at 28 weeks. I'm in my third trimester. I'm just barely in my third trimester. I just turned 28 weeks yesterday, on Thursday. But it's a noticeable difference. Within a few days of being home, I have the same symptoms, but I can lie down. Or if I'm sitting down, I can sit on this birthing ball, which is so helpful. And I actually need to go and lay down right now because I've been sitting up for quite a while. But but it's a marked difference at how rapidly I can recover from the symptoms. And the symptoms are not as severe as they were when I was like on my feet so much, walking so much, sitting down at my desk, you know, and getting up so early and doing all this stuff, plus coming home and taking care of my daughter. It was just a lot. Getting dressed in the morning was always a task. So I feel so much better, y'all, just to have the slower pace. I can go at my own pace. I can get up if I need to. It is hard to cook, I will say. So when my husband cooks or somebody brings food over, it's like very, very helpful. When I have to cook, I might not do it. I might eat cereal, to be honest. But I'm trying, you know, to just kind of pace myself and to prioritize that above anything else. My daughter's still going to the babysitter, was more like a daycare, preschool situation, and she will be 2 next month. Hopefully the twins don't come on her birthday. I'm hoping and praying that they come the very last week of May, or if the doctors let me go, to the first week of June, because with monodot twins, they need to be born no later than 37 weeks. 37 weeks is the cutoff, but I pray for 36 weeks and some change. That's what I'm hoping for. And I think that's about it. Write a comment below if you have any questions or comments. If you have any specific interest in this topic and you want me to share my experience or anything, I do have some books I'm reading, channels that I follow, and a large to-do list of things that I want to do to prepare for the twins. And I have, 8 weeks to get it done. With the help of my community. My support system has been such a blessing, y'all. And so, but yes, feel free to comment, like the video, and subscribe if you are interested in hearing about how these last 8 weeks of my pregnancy are going. All right, y'all have a lovely day, and until next time, later.